All right, so today we're going to be learning about statistics, beginning Unit 5. Specifically, we're going to talk about box and whisker plots and what the measures of central tendency are. So the things we're going to learn in this lesson are how to make a box and whisker plot and interpret a box and whisker plot, which is the whole purpose for creating one, is to be able to interpret the shape of a box and whisker plot. And then also the measures of central tendency, which include the mean, median, and mode, but it also talks about the inner quartile range and the range. So we're going to be talking about quartiles and range, and all of this is going to be in the context of what's called a frequency table. So let's go ahead and get started with this. So suppose we want to hold our breath and see how long the average person can hold their breath. So we're going to use this random information. Suppose there are 25 people. We measured how long they can hold their breath, and this is the information that we came up with. Well, a good place to start would be to put this information in order. And so we can do that here. By putting this information in order, kind of in the following way. I started with the lowest one, which is 18, and then we had two 37s and two 40s and three 42s and so on. But we want to start by somehow putting the information in order and then finding what the mean, the median, the mode, and the range are. So if I just talk about each one of these, hopefully these are things that you know, but I can find the mean by adding up all the numbers, okay, in here on our list. So here there are 25 numbers. If we add up 18 plus 21 plus 22, all the way to plus 57 and then divide by 25, because there are 5 numbers, we're going to have a mean, an average of 38. Okay, the median is the middle number, so it's a little bit different than the mean, because what we're going to do is we're going to cross off the lowest numbers. So for example, if I take the 12 lowest numbers, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12 of the lowest numbers. And then my 12 highest numbers are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And so the number that's right in the middle is 40. So that means that the median here is 40. Later on, we're going to talk about what the inner quartile range is. The inner quartile range is going to take like the bottom half and divide that in half. And so if there is the way we would do this in this particular example is that if there is a median value like there is 40 here, we're not going to include that in the top half or the bottom half. What we would do is we would take the 12 numbers that are in the bottom half, and here's the bottom 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, and the top 6 are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And so there isn't a number right there between 30 and 31, which means it's going to be 30.5. And then we would do the same thing with the top half of the numbers. We're going to get more into that in our next slide. The mode is, so the median is the middle number. The mode is the one that occurs the most often. And so a lot of times there's just one number that occurs the most often, and that would be the mode. Here it's bimodal. There's 2 modes here. And so we would actually say that the mode is 42 and 48. If there was a third number that had 3 values, like if there were 3 37s, then we would just say there is no mode. And then the range, if we take the highest number, which is 57, and subtract the lowest number, which is 18, we would get the range, which is 39. So those are all called, actually these 3 here are called measures of central tendency, because they give us a value of what like the middle number or a typical number would be, which is somewhere in the middle. Probably the 2 most important ones would be the mean and the median. The range is more of a variance number, which we're going to get into later on in this unit. Let's talk about then how we can make a box and whisker plot to interpret these data a little bit more. We would start making a box and whisker plot by making a uniform scale. Like for example, I might say, here's where we're going to have 20, then we're going to have some numbers that are in the 30s and the 40s and the 50s. And what I would want to do, that's a 50, what I'd want to do is make sure that those numbers are equally spaced apart. So I have a proportionate scale. I might go one more and say that's 60. And then we already determined that this 40 here is our middle number. And so I'm going to put a line at 40. We also have already determined that these are in my lowest half, these are my bottom 6 numbers. And in my top half, these are my top 6 numbers. So that means the first quartile, okay, which is the what would separate the bottom 25% from the upper 75%, is going to be at 30.5. Okay, so that means this is going to be here at 30.5. We already said this is at 40 here. And then I would want to take my top half of the data and cut that in half. And so in my top half of the data, again, I'm not going to count the median number, but I'm going to count the next lowest 6 numbers, which are these 6 numbers here. And my highest 6 numbers in that group are from 46 to 57. So I'm going to have to find the middle of 43 and 46. I'm going to add them together, divide by 2, which is 44.5, which would be about here. So that's my third quartile. So that's what's going to make up my box. My interquartile range is actually going to go from 44.5 to 30.5. I'd actually subtract that. My interquartile range, which we're going to talk about later on, is called the IQR, and that distance is 14. But to finish my box and whisker plot, I'm going to go all the way up to 57 and all the way down to 18. And the nice thing about a box and whisker plot is you can kind of see what the shape of the data looks like. Half of your values are in the box, okay, and then it's broken down into quartiles. Okay, one quartile is going to be on this whisker, one quartile is going to be on this whisker, and then we have another quartile called the second quartile in the bottom half of the box, and the third quartile in the top half of the box. So that's how we make a box and whisker plot. Let's talk about how we would interpret them. So this box and whisker plot here is symmetrical because these branches are equal, and inside the box they're equal. Okay, and again, we have the minimum value, we have the maximum value, we have what's called the interquartile range and the actual range. And then we also have what's called the Q1 value, the Q3 value, the lower quartile and the upper quartile, as sometimes they're referred to. And then the Q2 value is the median value, or the number that's right in the middle. But I want you to take a look at these two box and whisker plots. Suppose we have something that looks like this. Maybe even those values are like the same distance apart. Let's say that I got rid of this one here. Okay, so let's say that you were just fresh out of college, you're offered 2 different jobs, and your goal is or what you want to do is figure out what company you would like to work for. There's really no right or wrong answer here, but I'd want you to interpret the box and whisker plots to make a good description or a good argument for either choosing company A or company B. If you were to choose company A, you might choose company A because your beginning salary, which is probably going to be on the low end if you're just beginning, is going to be higher than that of company B. The other thing that you might determine is that the first quartile value, you might get there sooner, but that's a negative of that is that your first quartile range is not going to be paid as much as the first quartile range in company B. But here's the thing, if you stay with this company long enough, man, you have the potential to make more than if you were to stay at company B. So you're going to make more at the beginning, and you have the potential to make more at the end. Company B, if you take a look at what the benefits of joining this company, your beginning salary is not going to be as much as in company A. But the middle group of the people that work in this company, you can make a good argument that they get paid more than the middle group in company A. So that might be a good reason to choose company B, especially if you think you're going to stay with this company for a while. So even though their averages look like they're really close to each other, the top end of the third quartile and the bottom end of the second quartile are both higher than their respective quartiles in company A. A disadvantage would be that the top person in this company doesn't make as much as the top person in company A. So all of those would be good reasons for choosing company B. The other thing that we want to talk about in this lesson is the number of siblings that you have and how we can use a frequency table in order to find the mean, median, and mode. So for example, if I just did this one without using my calculator, I want to show you how to do this with your calculator as well. If I just did this one without my calculator, this means that the 0 shows up 5 times. The 1 shows up 9 times. You have 2 siblings 7 times. There were 7 people that answered your survey that said they had 2 siblings, and so on. So to find the mean, I'm not just going to take 0 plus 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 and divide it by 5 because there's 5 numbers. I'm actually going to have a total of 28 numbers. And if I add 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0 5 times, plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 9 times, plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 7 times, and so on, I would see that there would be 7 or 40, those numbers would add up to 47, and there are 28 people altogether. And so I would take 47 divided by 28. So my average is going to be 1.679 as the average number of siblings. The median number, now this is a little bit different because the median here's my top 14 numbers and here's my bottom 14 numbers. So the actual median or middle number is going to be right between 1 and 2, which is 1.5. And the mode, the one that occurred the most often, was 1 sibling. And what I'd like to do right now is show you how to do this. Show you how to do this with a graphing calculator. And so you can find the mean, median, and mode pretty nicely with the graphing calculator. And what you would do is you would go to our list, okay, the same list that we used when we were modeling data. And I already have in list number 3, I have all of these numbers. So I have the 0 in there 5 times. I have a 1 in there 9 times, a 2 in there 7 times, a 3 in there 4 times, and so on. And so then I'm going to go back to stat and calculate. And this is these are 1 variable statistics. We're going to talk more about this tomorrow in class, but if it's a 1 variable statistics, it's called 1 variable stats or univariate. And so if I just click that, and then I'm going to, these are all in my list 3. So I'm going to go to second and list 3. So I'm going to press enter. The X with the bar above it is the average. So you can see that my average is 1.679, which is the same average that I got here. Other things that you will see here is that there are, the sum of all of my numbers was 47. The number of numbers is 28, and that's where these numbers came from. If I scroll down here, you can see that the median value is 1.5, okay, which is what we have here. And we have a mode of 1. Now, the calculator doesn't tell you the mode, but it does tell you some other things like the Q1 value, the Q3 value. It tells you the minimum value, and it also tells you the maximum value. So this is a nice way to find the mean, median, and mode quickly without having to add the numbers and do it by hand. You can use our calculator just by using our list and our edit functions in our calculator. So this is what our homework assignment is about. It's Unit 5 assignment number 1. It's in Math Excel. And if you get started on that, we will see you tomorrow in class.